Today I want to talk a bit about Marathon, and more specifically the information we got in December and the Runner Shells video that we recently got here in January. Now, this is completely unscripted, so expect me to miss a couple things and might misremember, or I might remember things while I'm talking about this, but I just want to talk about the game a little bit, as it was very, very dormant for a very long time, and I was kind of unsure about going forward with it. Because, if you don't know, and if you can't tell by my profile picture on this goddamn website, this entire account, and the whole reason I started uploading videos in the first place, was because of Marathon. Marathon is a game that I had a lot of interest in initially when it got announced a couple years ago, and even when they showed it off earlier in 2025, in about April or August, whenever it was, I can't exactly remember, I was really, really excited for it. Now, don't get me wrong, I definitely had a lot of complaints, like things like lacking prox chat, there basically being no blood, and bodies not being on the ground, and I'll address all of these in just a minute. But I always kept a close eye on it, because I know that Bungie had been working very, very hard on it, and I wanted to just know more. The game itself intrigued me from the minute I saw it, like I said, and not being able to hear anything of it for so many months was kind of annoying. That wasn't until December when they decided to up the ante and start showing us more stuff. Now, they gave us, I believe, like a 20-ish minute long video talking about loads of changes, loads of differences, and loads of little things they've done to the game, and they just released another one talking about the Runner Shells. Now, Runner Shells have had basically a complete overhaul, given they were originally just called Runners, and now they're just Runner Shells. We got our first look at the two newer ones as well that we hadn't seen before. I believe are called Triage and Rook. Oh, not Rook, Thief, and obviously Rook. Rook is a new one that they added. I'll get into him in a little bit, but they basically have renamed all of the runners, so it's less you're playing as like Glitch herself, and you're more playing as the Glitch Shell / the newly called Vandal Shell. Now, I'm quite a big fan of this. I honestly didn't really complain much about previously being just named anyway, and I think I'm probably just going to still call them by their names if I can remember them. Like, I'm probably just going to still be calling Vandal Glitch, as that's how I know her as. However, the rest of the other ones I can't actually remember, other than Thief, because they haven't changed her name. So the rest of them I'm just going to be calling by whatever their actual in-game name is. I guess it's Blackbird as well. I remember Blackbird, but that's now Recon, but it is what it is. Again, I can't complain. Like, I know it's kind of a wanted change. I don't really care too much, but it's a change they did. They also showed off a little bit of different things, like attachments and different little things that you can pick up and put onto your character, like boosts, I forget what they're called, runner mods, I think, something along those lines. And they're tweeting actively about them as I'm talking. And the ones that I've seen so far on Twitter and the ones that I saw from the little runner video look pretty interesting. I'm very excited to see how build crafting in this game is going to work, especially as you unlock more stuff for factions and you get more stuff for your characters and more boosts and yada yada yada. I want to know if you can end up in a position where you can have like a glitch or a vandal specifically, that is just like straight in your face with a shotgun and there's just nothing you can do about it because she's moving at like lightning speed, or if you can have one with like recon where you're more set back with a sniper and you can more have like a fire support role. I really am interested in seeing how build crafting in Marathon is going to end up coming to be, especially because, I mean, if you can't tell, I like making builds, and I like editing them, and I like tweaking them. But either way, I'm excited for Marathon's Runner Shells. The next thing I want to talk about is more specifically about the Vidoc they released back in December, because there's not really much more to say. Actually, I'll talk about Rook first. Rook is quite interesting, and I'm so glad that they're adding the Rook as an option. One of the things that they said in the Vidoc, what I didn't really think about, and I think is really, really interesting, and it's definitely going to be nice to know, is you could kill, like, 10 enemy or other runners in your lobby, and then 5 of those slots, 6 or 7 of those slots, 6, 7, can be filled with Rook players who are just coming in to scavenge. I think something like that is really, really small, and really lovely. Personally, I'm not going to be killing any Rooks, but I'm definitely going to be running Rook, especially as I want to get more loot. And I'm hoping that faction packages stay as a thing. I'm really hoping that you can have Rook as your baseline, just go in and scavenge option, but then you can have faction packages what you can pay for, in case you don't really want to do that, and instead you want to go in with like some weaponry on your favorite runner, maybe make the packages a bit more expensive, so it's less of a chance that you're going to be doing that, and to actually incentivize playing Rook. Next, I want to talk about bodies and blood. So, bodies is something that I'm really, really happy they're adding. They do still have the duffel bag that will just spawn in next to bodies, as far as I'm aware. I'm not too mad about that. Maybe I personally wouldn't do a duffel bag. I'd probably do like a backpack or something. But I'm not going to complain about the duffel bag. It is what it is. Like, I don't really care. And the bodies being there is really, really cool, especially because they have like a decay system where when you kill somebody, they're going to look very fresh, and then if you come back like 20 minutes later, they're going to look, well, decayed, and there's going to be like more, they're going to look more dark and I guess like rusted in an almost way. They have more blood around the place as well, but I really like how they've gone more of a dark approach, that's an oily approach with their blood. Something really, really small, but I think is really, really nice. Is the oily blood, because it makes sense because you're not playing as people, you're playing as shells or runners, and it creates this really, really cool like look, I guess, where you can be in like a bright green type of like aesthetic room and then just have a nice giant pool of dark blue oily blood. It looks really, really cool, and I can't wait to have situations where I've gone into a building where there's clearly been a gunfight and you've got like 3 bodies that are just decayed to fuck, just blood everywhere. Like, it's going to be really, really cool, and I cannot wait to see that in game. Another thing that they talked about a little bit was difficulty, risk, and the stakes that come along with it, and how they've talked about how making the UESC specifically a much tougher enemy to fight, and that's something I'm really, really happy to see. I heard a lot of people even talking about in the alpha that they were already tough, but I'm glad to see that the game's going to have maybe a bit of a smaller community who don't really care about killing people and just want to kill UESC and probably team up to do so. I know personally PvP isn't going to be a massive priority. I'm definitely going to be taking part in it quite a lot, but I'm not going to go into every single run thinking I need to kill every motherfucker on my screen. And if people want to talk it out, people want to, have a conversation, make sure that we're not getting off on the wrong foot, then I'm not going to be against that at all. They absolutely upgraded the graphics as well, and I think that you can absolutely see that in even the December thing compared to the January one, and definitely compared back to April. I never really had any complaints about how the inside of buildings looked in Marathon anyway, because they looked unreal, but now they've made the outside look significantly nicer, with things like the entirety of the environment has been overhauled, the weather system has been overhauled, everything looks a lot more closer to the cinematic that we got. What is really, really cool, because one of my small complaints was that I hoped the game would look closer like the cinematic. I don't think I ever really voiced it, because it is still a work in progress game, but the fact that we're now in a position that it looks so close to the cinematic, in all situations, in all environments, is really, really cool, and I can't wait to see have those wow moments when I'm playing this game. They also added solos, what I'm very, 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 very happy about, as I'm probably going to be playing this game predominantly solo, as a lot of my friends aren't really interested in extraction shooters. So to see that solos are actually going to be in the game is something that I'd love to see, and I can't wait to be able to actually play the game and not have to worry about teammates messing up, or teammates going the wrong direction, or teammates doing this, that, or the other, and they're probably going to say the same about me. So I'm really, really happy to see solos there. What kind of leads perfectly into the next thing was proximity chat. This is another thing that was basically outcried since day one, because they were worried about people being toxic, so they didn't really want it in the game. However, you can't really have an extraction shooter without proximity chat, so I'm really, really happy that they've decided to add it to this game, especially because it's an extraction shooter, and even more so they've added Rook, and the choice of scavving. So that's going to be really, really nice to be able to actually, if I'm playing Rook, I'm not just going to feel like every person I'm in an encounter is going to immediately blow my shit smooth off, because I'm actually going to be able to talk to them and potentially maybe negotiate my way out of there. They talked a little bit as well about map tiers, and how you start off lower on perimeter, and then as you go through the map sections, or the maps themselves rather, they kind of scale in difficulty up to the UESC Marathon. So as far as I remember, there's 4: the perimeter, dire marsh, outpost, and marathon, or the UESC Marathon rather. Perimeter is more like your introduction-y area. You then have dire marsh, it's your mid-tier. You have your outpost, that's hard, and then you have your marathon, that's really hard, legendary. So obviously the marathon ship is going to have probably all the best loot, but that doesn't mean you can't get really, really good loot in other places. And I'm really, really, really hoping that maybe they talk more about loot at some point, but specifically that map-specific loot is a thing. Because I don't want to be in a position, personally, where I'm at like a mid-game point where I'm like Dire Marsh and Outpost, and that I have no reason to go into Perimeter or go playing the Marathon. I'm assuming that there's going to be at least 1 or 2 items per map that's going to be map exclusive. But if we can end up with like 3 or 4, maybe a couple like weapon mods or so that are specifically for each map, that's something really, really small that I would love to see. And I can't wait to see that. If it does come, it kind of goes well into weapon attachment overhaul, what they did briefly talk about. Basically, they've changed a lot of how the attachments work and how you get them, and they've showed off some of them and said there's like over 400 combinations, I think, or something like that. It was really, really cool to hear and really, really exciting to hear. They've also done something similar with like a runner overhaul, where a lot of different mods are available individually for runners, but then a lot of them have a lot of them are like a general buffs, maybe like extra stamina, or maybe a little bit like you can have one more shield or something, I don't know. But basically, you have a lot more stuff to focus on, and a lot more stuff to think about, and a lot more freedom with your weapon customization. Another thing that they touched on was the UESC being more threatening, and I did talk about this earlier with difficulty, but the word that they used in the Vidoc was haunted, what I think is really cool, because if you can almost have like a zombified type of idea between these behind these UESC robots, that's going to be something so small, especially in more places that you're going to be exploring, that I cannot wait to look for and look into. They also talked about how factions got overhauled. They changed some things in trees and progression and this, that, and the other. And again, I'm kind of hoping that you can still buy kits from them. But either way, it all looked pretty goddamn interesting. They said as well that world events are going to be more important, like things that you can just bump into doing while just playing your way through the game. That's another thing that is just like chef's kiss. And I can't wait to see how that's going to change things up, and how that's going to look in the future, and how that is going to affect my gameplay, because I wasn't really too worried about world events, but if you're actually going to give me a reason to run them and get good loot, and they're going to be entertaining and intriguing to do that, it makes me really, really, really happy. And the last couple of things that they touched on was the codex. What they said, there's going to be an in-game lore tab, what is going to be called aptly the codex. Those, so you can get a bunch of free cosmetics through the codex, what I think is something that really, really is nice, and I think a lot of games that are premium don't really do many like free cosmetics, or they do, and they'll always be like smaller things, even if it's like reskins. As long as I'm not like doing something on Outpost and you give me a reskin for Assassin who I'm never gonna like play in my entire life, as long as it's something that maybe I can choose my reward, or you give me like a default green variant of my character and you give them for all of the characters, I'm gonna be very, very happy with that. Now, I'm pretty sure I have missed quite a little bit of stuff here, but that kind of sums up everything that I wanted to talk about. I'm very, very excited for the future of Marathon, especially after seeing this runner thing and the Vidoc last month. I'm hoping maybe in February they'll give us another one before the launch of the game in March, and I highly recommend, if you're really on edge about this game, watching some gameplay from the playtests, what they showcased last year, and seeing if you like that, and even if it has a little bit of interest and has you intrigued, maybe watch the new Vidoc, maybe watch the new Runners documentary, and then come back to this video, maybe rewatch over it, get a refresh and everything, and then just see what by the time the game comes out. You never know. Anyway, I want to thank you for watching, and I cannot wait to get my hands on this game.